Are you ready for the ultimate bikepacking weekend adventure? Join us for an unforgettable self-supported bikepacking trip through Southwest Virginia. The Grayson Gravel Pie Bikepacking Adventure travels along the Virginia Creeper Trail, the beautiful gravel roads of Grayson County, Virginia, and the New River Trail. All lodging and camping arrangements are included, along with daily routes and guides riding along with you. This self-supported adventure offers resupply opportunities every 20 miles for your food and water needs. Find out more at graveltraveldirt.com.
You're listening to Mid-Atlantic Gravel, Travel, and Dirt.
Hey everybody, I'm Brian, and this is episode 222, the Triple Deuce of Mid-Atlantic Gravel, Travel, and Dirt. And yes, I am solo, so you are just going to hear my voice on this episode. Sorry about that. Come back again if you're interested in not listening to me. If you're new here, this is a podcast where we talk about gravel bikes, adventure biking, bikepacking, bike camping. Tonight, on this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about this year's Tour Divide and how you can keep track of it and what's going on over there, because they're out there just playing bikes. Before we get to that, I've got some discount codes I would like to share on either the Salt Stick or the JoJ website. When you reach checkout, use the code LOVEYOUBUY, take 20% off all your items. Over at Cutaway USA, use the discount code GTD20 to take 20% off your order. And if you're in the market for a new hydration pack, check out Orange Mud. Use the discount code FF23RAINS to take 15% off your order. I'm going to have all of those links and the discount codes in the show notes. So, what's been going on in my world this past week? Just back more of the same, just riding the bike and staying out there on the road and not doing the same miles that I had done leading up to Croatan. So early in the season, I was putting in 30 to 40 miles a day. I backed it up a little bit, doing about 150 a week, just to kind of stay tuned, because guess what? We got Grusk coming up in I think it's just 3 weeks. So if you're not registered for Grusk yet, you need to get on that, get over there. Get all the things, the t-shirts, the sweatshirts, the camping, the food, of course, the race, because it's a great weekend that Travis puts on, and you don't want to miss it. You really do not want to miss it. If you enjoy the gravel community like we do over here, that is a place that you want to be, because you're coming in on Friday, you're camping, you're having a great ride on Saturday in beautiful country. Even if it's rainy and even if it's foggy like it was last year, we had a fantastic time. Come back at the end of your ride, there's food, there's music, there's beer, there's more camping, there's more time with friends and hanging out and talking bikes and talking about whatever you want to talk about. And then you roll out on Sunday having had a great weekend. So just don't miss that one. And get your miles in too, because your legs are going to need it. That first climb up to Spruce Knob. While it's not daunting, there's no real steep pitches. It's a long climb. So just settle in and enjoy it, and enjoy the time you have there on your bike. Let's take a look at Strava Club. Everybody wants to see Strava Club. Top 100 random rider shout-outs. Pete Arner from Chester, West Virginia with 209.4 miles. Lisa Boone from Lancaster, Pennsylvania with 212.2. Dave Bido from Erie, Pennsylvania, 132.7. Great job, Pete, Lisa, and Dave, and everybody that's logging miles on the leaderboard. Thank you for being a part of the Strava Club, and maybe listen out for your name, but you got to put in some miles every week. I'm going to tell you what, to break into the top 100 for this week, you need 127 miles. And we've picked up a few members, so we're up to 901 members, which is cool. If you're looking for that, strava.com/clubs/gravel travel dirt, or just go up into the search bar under clubs and search for Gravel Travel Dirt. You will find us without any delay. So let's talk about the 2023 Tour Divide. If you're not familiar, that's a race that just started. It began on Friday, June 9th. It begins at 8 o'clock in the morning with a grand depart. And I think they had just around 190, 200 riders this year. And that's the southbound. They're following roughly a 2,700 mile Great Divide mountain bike route from north to south. It starts in Banff, Alberta, Canada, and finishes at the U.S.-Mexico border in Antelope Wells, New Mexico. It is about for the leaders, it's about a 13, 14, 15 day adventure. But I know that a lot of folks take a lot more time to do that because it's a tremendous journey. In fact, I think even we're just started day 5, I believe, here on June 14th in the evening. And there are still riders on the leaderboard, I believe, that are just crossing the Canadian border. So some folks take their time and do this more of as a tour than as a race. But those folks that are out front are putting in some pacing. So the current record was set in 2016 by the late Mike Hall. He did it in 13 days, 22 hours, and 51 minutes. That is starting in Canada, crossing the entirety of the United States, and finishing at the Mexico border in 13 days, 22 hours, with unbelievable volume of gain. I want to say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 165,000 feet of vertical gain over that 13 days. So it's not for the faint of heart, and it's not for those that don't have their climbing legs. So keep that in mind. So this year, like I said, we're in day 5, but there was a really, really fast start. On day 1, riders were making it to the U.S. border in under 24 hours. And they had very dry and very fast conditions on day 1. But that did not last long as a front came through and dumped just buckets of rain, resulting in like some seriously muddy conditions rapidly evolving. To take a look on the women's side of things, let's start there. Lael Wilcox is basically riding away from the women's field. And let's keep in mind that she rode to the start in Banff in Alberta, Canada, from Mexico. So she started in Mexico, rode to Banff, and now she's turning around and she's riding from Banff back down to Mexico. It's not Mexico the place, it's Mexico the country. It's one way south, like an entire country away from the start. Like, it's just crazy. And she is currently ahead of her own record, her own fastest known time for the divide. But of course, I mean, day 5, there's still a long ways to go. They got 10, 11, maybe 12 days of riding ahead of them. And I'm going to take a look at Dotwatcher right now and see at what mile point. Now, this is, I'm recording Wednesday night about 5 o'clock, and she is, the Dotwatcher leaderboard's listing her at just around 1,000 miles, 977 miles. So it was 1,700 miles to go. And she's just a powerhouse. I think the next closest women rider is, if you want to bear with me for a second here, because I'm actually on the Dotwatcher doing the thing while we're here. So, Oh, this is making for horrible podcast radio audio, isn't it? Sorry, folks. But it's cool. And so they're 5 days, 8 hours, and 13 minutes in right now. And Lael's at, like I said, they got her listed at route mile 980. And Katya Rakhmatinina, I'm botching the name. I'm going to botch a lot of names here tonight. She's at 881. So Lael's a full 100 miles ahead of her in 5 days. And then Hannah Simon, I almost said Hannah Storm. Hannah Simon is at 813. So you can see this field, the women's field, is all spread out with Lael just way out in front. So good luck to her. She's just such a great person. On the men's side of the things, now, the top 3 right now, Ulrich Bartholomos and Justina Lavica and Jans van Roost. They're actually all riding currently ahead of that men's record set by the late Mike Hall back in 2016. Now, Ulrich and Justina started off really, really hot. In fact, the topic of conversation across the board was there's no way they are keeping up this pace. It was absolutely on fire. I think they're at the end of day 4, or the end of day 3, the beginning of day 4. I think they were still above 90% on their run time, so they had not taken very much time to actually sleep. And Jans van Roost, who is actually in the lead now, but they're all kind of right there together. He took a much slower kind of a start, although not a very slow start. I think his run time was at around 81, 82%, and he caught them just yesterday. So it does not always pay off, I think, to go out so fast, so strong. But Justinas and Ulrich, I think, were pushing each other, and Jans just came up. And looking at the leaderboard now for the men, he's at a mile 11:18 with Ulrich at 11:15 and Justinas at 1,072. So there is a race that's happening there in that one, no doubt about it. And checking and looking at their run times. Let's see if I can scroll over to run times on the leaderboard, their run rest numbers. And if you're not familiar, their run rest numbers are the percentage of time since the gun start that they are either moving or resting, one or the other. And let's see, Jan's run time is at 81.9%, where Ulrich's at 85%, and Justinas is at 80.9%. So you can see, I'm going to talk a little bit more about run rest time and how you can actually follow the Dotwatcher in just a little bit. So let's jump into it. If you go to dotwatcher.cc, or this is the one that I prefer, the place that I'm kind of staying plugged in, is over at bikepacking.com. You're going to find daily updates. They're doing video, they're doing Instagram, they're doing photos, they're doing write-ups. Just a very, very cool kind of a way to stay in touch with this. And a couple of other notable men in the field, Alex Howells and Ted King, have clipped in for the Grand Depart this year, and they're running sort of towards the front side of the mid-pack, if that makes sense. There's kind of like a front field, and then there's sort of like a glut, and they're on the front end of that mid-pack. But when you're over at either dotwatcher.cc or at bikepacking.com, they both embed the same track leaderboard. And there's a couple of really cool and telling statistics to check out on the leaderboard. So there's multiple tabs on that. You have the leaderboard, you have the projection, you have the map view, you have the race flow. The ones you're probably going to want to pay the most attention to that helps you kind of stay in touch is the main map. Obviously, you can see where everybody is according to their tracker. And then clicking on the leaderboard, you can sort things by men, women, single speed. There's dog packing as a category this year, which is really kind of cool. There's been a couple of updates from them. They have it broken down by veterans and rookies and single speed and non-binary. So you can take a look at the leaderboard with all of those different categories. And once you're on the leaderboard, there is a tab that is called Run Rest. And that was where I got those numbers. You can see their run times and their moving average speed. You can tell sort of who's the fastest on the course. And I believe Ted King has taken a lot of rest, and that has paid off for him. I want to say he's actually running one of the fastest moving times. Let me looking at Lael Wilcox. Her run time is at 81.7%. Her average moving speed is 9.4. Let's see. I'm going to scroll down a little bit more and try to find Ted King. It takes a little bit. It's not the most intuitive. You really have to dig into this and know what you're looking at before you go looking for it, before it to make a whole lot of sense. And I can't seem to find him. So again, horrible radio. There he is, Ted King. So he's at mile 724. But his average moving speed, 11.7. but his runtime is coming in at 56.8%. So he's taking a lot more rest, and that's translating into a higher speed. And if I look at the average moving speed, I want to say that's one of the highest ones that I see. Let's see. Well, there's somebody back at mile 377 who's got a 17% runtime. His average moving speed is 18. I'm not going to count anybody. There's a second. If you sort by average moving speed, Marcel Bessemer is at mile 364, running with a moving average speed of 13.1. And then the rest of the field, remember I was talking about that mid-pack kind of thing. That mid-pack's all at around mile 700. Ted King's at mile 724. He's got an 11.7 average moving speed. And if you look at, let's see, just the leaderboard, just the men's leaderboard, the leader right now, I don't know, I can't remember if I gave his speed yet or not. His average moving speed for Jan's. Stand by. His average moving speed is, bear with me, folks. I got to click route miles. His average moving speed is 10.7. So Ted's moving a whole mile per hour faster on his average moving speed. Now, the next tab to look at is race flow. Race flow is kind of a cool view because it gives you the day-by-day breakdown. And it's a graph, it's a chart that shows you the breakdown between day and night. Day is light, gray is nighttime. And when a rider's line goes flat, that is when they are in rest mode. And then the steeper the line is when they're moving, the faster they're going. So you can go in and select some of your favorite riders, break it down. Some ones to watch, obviously the men's leaders, Jans Ulrich, Justinas. Joe Nation's been making a big run. Lael Wilcox, some of the other lady riders, the women's riders are fun to watch along those same lines. So you can actually see how close they are. Lael's in 9th out of everybody that's in the field overall. So it's kind of a cool view to see who's taking more rest, who's taking the breaks, and who's just pushing forward. You can kind of see that as the graph progresses over the course of the event, it sort of has it begins to curve in a much milder slope or grade. In those first 2 days, it's crazy to look at because it's like none of these leaders actually took any time to rest. So, cool stuff to look at, cool stuff to watch. We got another probably week and a half of some really exciting racing and to watch there. Be fun to keep an eye on what Ted's doing because I'm sure that over the course of 2 to 3 weeks, his level of fitness is just going to begin to crack, and he'll begin to pull away from some of that mid pack. And I think he's in for a strong finish. Again, a lot of things depend upon weather. That's another thing I believe you can look at on the bikepacking website or the Dotwatcher website. You can actually look at the weather forecasts. And I really like the bikepacking.com's tracking. They're doing multiple updates. They're doing YouTube videos where they're walking through the field. They're bringing in some video that the riders are sending them. It's really an engaging way to kind of keep track of something that's so distant and so foreign to a lot of us. And it really, I think the advent of all this technology coming together is really making something like this, bringing it more to the mainstream, which is really, really kind of cool. So while we're on the topic of Tour Divide, another thing that bikepacking.com has embedded in their page of coverage. Now, when you go to the homepage of bikepacking.com, it's kind of hard to find. You have to scroll down under their main scroll, and there's a small little tab button, which takes you to the home for their 2023 Tour Divide coverage. You kind of got to dig it out. But once you find it, you can bookmark it and go back to it, which is like what I have done. But inside of that page, they're doing all sorts of updates with the latest news. So they're doing bike checks. They've got Justinas and Chris Burkhardt is their latest update of a bike check. They've got a video on John and Myra and the bike, and that is the dog packer. This is the one that I watched the other day that I specifically wanted to mention. Revelate did a fantastic video with Lael Wilcox. It's about 20 minutes where she walks through her bike, her setup on the bike, the bags that she uses on the bikes for the race, what she's carrying in each bag. It's just wild to watch and see how little these folks actually are carrying and how tight you can really get a pack. So she's riding a specialized S-Works Epic that she has modified with drop bars to give her a few more hands positions. Some Renee Harris tires that I believe she was instrumental in designing that were specifically put together for the Tour Divide and the race, as well as anybody who wanted to go out and ride it. I'm going to put a link to the video in the show notes. It's a super fun watch, and it's just an incredible insight coming from someone who literally has probably the most dialed in kit out there. And seriously, how can you not just get a kick out of Lael sharing her passion? She's infectious. It's just, it's so much fun to watch. You can just tell that it's not, this is her life. She's sharing her passion. She's sharing her life. It's just infectious. And the best part, she forgets what aero bars are called. It's a funny moment. And I thought it was telling in that, that Unbound this year, nixed aero bars on bikes for the race. And she forgot what they were called. It's a fun moment in the video. And she just does such a great job of walking through it. And it's surprising some of the stuff that she carries. I mean, I never would have honestly thought about carrying a sewing kit specifically with tire repair in mind if you needed to stitch a sidewall. It's a duh moment. But for something like this, when you're truly, some places on this Tour Divide are just out in the middle of nothing. And if you're not prepared to support yourself, then in fact, that's the whole point of the race. There is no outside support. And it's cool to watch in the videos where people are rolling into gas stations and they're dropping $50 and they're cleaning the place out. And, Lael talks about how, she carries this super thin, super lightweight sleeping pad, which I don't think she's done in the past. This might be the first year that she's done that. And there's such a time crunch for these folks. She doesn't want to take the time to blow it up and deflate it and put it away unless it's cold enough to warrant it. So, she's in this tiny little garbage bag bivvy with this super light sleeping bag, and she's got one pair set of clothes and a puffy jacket, and it's kind of like there's some rain gear, and that's about it. It's just a fun watch, and I highly recommend it. And, obviously she's sponsored by Specialized, she's sponsored by Revelate, but I roll Revelate bags, and I'm a big fan of them as well. So it was kind of cool to see them in action. Switching gears away from bike packing for just a moment. If you are inclined or you're a Netflix subscriber, I would recommend checking out their new Tour de France Unchained documentary. It's been a fun watch, and I like that it's coming so close on the heels of last year. It's not something from years ago. It's the 2022 event. So those memories of those things that happen, like the wrecks when they're crossing that bridge, and then how Van Aert actually caught up, and how they on that bridge that day. I was day 3 after that wreck where they actually caught the peloton. Just a really, really well done documentary so far. Very factual, has some team approaches, gives you some really interesting insight into that world, which is, it's not my world, and I'm probably not your world either, but it's kind of fun to see it. And coming so close to, I'd recommend trying to sneak that in before this year's tour starts in a few weeks, because it'll give you I think it's going to make it that much more enjoyable to watch the tour this year, having watched this documentary from last year. And I don't know if that makes sense. But that's on Netflix. It's Tour de France Unchained, and it's been a fun watch so far. So I'm going to put links to Actually, what I'll do is I'm going to put a link to the bikepacking.com 2023 Tour Divide Tracker homepage into the show notes, and I'll put a link to the Dotwatcher, direct link in dotwatcher.cc. I'll put a link to the Lael Wilcox video, and so you'll be able to grab all of that stuff in easy and quick order and not have to go hunting around and doing the Google thing and or poking or pecking and looking around. That's kind of all I've got going on. One thing I haven't talked about this yet. I some of you know because I put it out there on some socials, and the GTD social had it as well. I wrote a small bike packing tips, tricks, guide kind of a book. You can find that now on Amazon. I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. And people have asked me, like, where did that come from and what is that all about? I do and have done a lot of seminars and things for different events and different groups at the library or at the bike shop, or, sort of like this bikepacking 101, and trying to like introduce the subject to people who may be interested in it, either coming from a bicycle touring side of things or coming from, that recreational rider side of things where they're looking to kind of explore that, because it's a very up and coming space right now. And I put the book together just so that out of all of those materials that I had aggregated and put together, and it was a little bit of an effort, but honestly, it was a lot of stuff, like I said, that I'd already had in different disparate parts and pieces, and I had to do a little bit of writing to go along with it, and it just seemed to make sense. It's 60 some odd pages, and it walks through just pretty much everything: how to develop routes, how to find routes, food, your gear, your bike, all the basics and the things that you would expect. So maybe you've got somebody that is interested in bike packing. Maybe you do it, and you've got a friend that's thinking about doing it as well. Might be a good read for them, because it's very much a reference type of a book. It's a reference piece of material. It's something that you might throw on your bookshelf and then go back and reference from time to time. Or you could start a fire with it. One or the other. Either one, it's good for. So if you want to check it out, I want to put a link in the show notes. I'm not real big on self-promotion, so maybe check it out. You can download an e-copy, an e-version. It's a PDF from our website through the Shopify account. It's a couple bucks. I can't remember what the pricing is on Amazon. It's $15-20, something like that, for a hard copy. Which is a hard copy it's a softback, but it's a nice little size. So I am going to go ahead and shut things down this week. I want to thank everybody for listening to this abbreviated episode of Mid-Atlantic Gravel, Travel, and Dirt. If you've enjoyed the podcast, maybe consider joining our Patreon family. We really appreciate all the support, and a monthly donation of just a couple of bucks really helps us keep the podcast going. If you're looking to get in touch with us, the website, graveltraveldirt.com, Instagram at MidAtlanticGTD. Mid-Atlantic Gravel, Travel, and Dirt this week is recorded from right here in my home office. Thanks for riding along. Until next time, do good, be nice, go slow, respect others. Love you, bye.